Now, the royals do inspire passions on both sides. Some are dedicated to the monarchy. They approve of the role of the Queen and her heirs in Canada. Others look at the Queen's role as head of state and suggest it's time to consider ending the monarchy. For both perspectives, I'm joined now by Austin Harding of the Monarchist League and Tom Frieda. He's with the Citizens for a Canadian Republic. So, Austin, let's start with you. Why do you think that these royal tours are important, if not necessary?
Well, that's actually a great question, and thank you again for having me. We actually at the League call it a homecoming. It's something that is unique to Canada in that we have a Canadian royal family that we share with 15 other realms, and anytime they come back to Canada, it's a homecoming. They're coming back to Canada to look at all of the accomplishments of Canadians and to try to further the prosperity of Canadians as a whole.
Tom, you don't see it that way.
Well, let's establish one thing. We're not against royal visits.
Right.
A lot of Canadians love to see the royals come here. Hey, look, the cutbacks today in the magazine industry prove one thing. The celebrity magazine, Hello Canada, is the only one that's avoided cutbacks. And one of your competitors,
royals.
Yeah, it was just in today's, and that proves the Canadians really love the royals, but it's for their celebrity value. Last year, a poll asked Canadians, do we want a Canadian, a resident Canadian, as our head of state? And 73% said yes. Yet when you see other polls asking what they think about the royals themselves, they're quite high. So there's a difference there.
And what do you think of that, Austin? When you hear that, why not have a Canadian head of state?
So it's a great point. I might remind Mr. Frieda here that we actually do have a resident Canadian that represents the monarchy in Canada, Governor General David Johnson.
No, I know, but the Queen is
of course,
our symbolic head of state.
Indeed. But it is not exactly too far away from the other. Queen is the monarch of Canada, part of the Canadian royal family. Governor General represents the said Queen and is a Canadian, is a resident Canadian. Is not elected, but he is chosen based on his merits, and he represents the spirit of the nation in Canada.
And so, what's your objection? Why do you think that we should not have a monarchy?
Well, first of all, let's establish one thing. Our Governor General is our de facto head of state. He or she does all of the duties of a parliamentary president in a parliamentary republic, such as Ireland or Malta or Iceland, whatever. I would advocate that we are better fans of the Governor General than the Monarchist League, because we think that the role is vastly underrated and mistreated, as a matter of fact. Our Governor General had a state visit to the U.S. in May. It totally escaped the media in the United States and in Canada. We would like to elevate the Governor General to full head of state status rather than de facto. And so our Canadian head of state could represent Canada around the world and be well known. The Queen travels around the world. She's recognized as the Queen of the United Kingdom. You don't see the headlines in the papers in Brazil saying the Queen of Canada is coming to visit.
Right.
It's totally non-existent.
But there is a lot of, the polls do show that there is a lot of affection for the Queen, for Queen Elizabeth.
Absolutely.
And a lot of Canadians want to maintain the ties to the monarchy with this Queen,
ties,
right?
And the cultural ties.
But maybe not as much with Charles, who's next in line.
That's debatable, and both of us are probably going to jump right on that one.
I want to take that off the table right away, because we want them to be distinct, and Canadians say those two things are distinct.
Okay, and also?
I was just going to say, if you look at everything that Charles has done, he's been groomed basically since he was born to be heir, and he was. It's shown through all of his charities, the ones that he started in the United Kingdom that have done a tremendous work in Europe and across the world, and even in Canada 5-10 years ago. It just proves that he's distinct separately from the Queen.
What do you make of the argument that in a modern Canada that a lot of people should be rewarded for success in life by merit, and that the monarchy is the complete antithesis of merit? It just happens to be who your parents were that gives you these titles and these roles.
But you have to also remember just the fact what they are born into. They're born into just basically a life of serving the country that they represent. So if they come to Canada, come back home to Canada, they're representing Canada. They're representing Canadians, the spirit of Canada. They're not there for political gains. They're not there for their own support.
So Will and Kate they were here 5 years ago. So I mean, it's not like they're here very often.
Well, no, that's true. But there's also, for the past 3 or 4 days, days, there's been a visit by another member of the royal family in Brampton, seeing one of the units, the military units that he represents, and that was not on taxpayer dime. That was so the royals just come and go as all the time throughout Canada.
Now, what do you make, though, Tom, that maybe this is just, it's a system that works, that a lot of Canadians don't spend? I mean, we're spending some time talking about it right now, but a lot of Canadians don't necessarily spend, sleepless nights thinking about this, that it's a system that just works and just leave it alone.
Absolutely. Well, I'll agree with you in one respect. Canadians really don't care an awful lot about the monarchy. If you look at opinion polls, and it's quite odd that an institution that's supposed to be the bulwark of the Canadian state can't command a majority of approval by Canadians, and opinion polls show that most Canadians either want to get rid of it or they don't care. And
Austin,
so
you're shaking your head. That's not true?
There's a number of opinion polls. There's a number of ways of asking the question.
45% just last week.
That's not a majority if you know your numbers.
So
no, well that's what I'm saying.
Support for the monarchy.
But again, it's more so than not. It's basically when you look at the numbers, there are a number of ways that you can actually ask a question. You can say, do you support the monarchy? Obviously, most people will say yes, then no. If you ask, do you want a Canadian head of state? Yep, obviously, most people will say yes, then no. But when you look at, when you ask Canadians whether they want someone that is not politically motivated and is not there solely just for their own gain, you see the polar opposite. You see broad support for someone who is not there just, Canadians are humble. They don't
We're all for that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all for an apolitical head of state, and we believe that our Governor General, elevated to the full head of state status, can be that person. And without any connection, any colonial connection that irritates some segments of our population. A unifying person who would be democratically selected.
All right. Well, this has been interesting. Thank you both very much.
Anytime.
That's Austin Harding of the Monarchist League and Tom Frieda of the Citizens for a Canadian Republic.